Hi everyone, this is Teri Lyddiard at CakePlayground.com. We're going to do a departure from our normal Cake Playground cake stuff, and I'm going to show you a recipe that has been traditional in my family for probably at least 30 years. The famous Thanksgiving cinnamon roll recipe. I don't think I'd be able to show up at Thanksgiving if I didn't bring this with me. So let's get started. In a large bowl, mix together a cup of milk, a tablespoon of vanilla, and break 1 egg and mix that all together until the liquid ingredients are mixed together. Then you're going to add 3 tablespoons of white sugar and stir until that's dissolved. Next, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of dry yeast and mix until dissolved. Then 1 1/2 cup white all-purpose flour. Now we're going to stir this thoroughly until the flour is all mixed in. This helps also to develop the gluten in the dough to give structure to this bread dough. So what we're going to do next is, after the dry ingredients are combined in with the wet, we're going to cover this with plastic wrap and let it set on the counter for about 30 minutes. And you'll see some small little bubbles rising up to the top. In the meantime, let's prepare for the next step. In this next step, my friends, we are going to grease our pan with butter. And it is an ever-increasing quest to add more butter to this recipe. In our house, the saying is, the mo butter, the mo better. So this is not a light greasing. We're going to start with a Pyrex dish. I think this is a 9 by 12 inch rectangular dish, like the kind that you make lasagna in. And then, yes, we're going to use a whole stick of unsalted butter. So you're going to cover this pan on the sides and the bottom with butter. When the kids do this at Thanksgiving, it's their favorite part. So give yourself a chance to be a kid again and have some fun with this. Make sure everything's covered with butter. And what do we do with these? There's hot water and soap. We'll get the grease off your hands. So have fun. My cousin Cameron comes every year and helps to bake cinnamon rolls, and she calls this next step the secret sauce. This is a newer addition to my recipe. It adds corn syrup to the recipe. What the corn syrup helps to do is, as the cinnamon rolls cool down, it keeps them from getting hard and crystallized. For the secret sauce, in a medium pan, put a 1/4 cup of butter, that's a 1/2 stick, a 1/2 cup of white corn syrup, a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, a tablespoon of vanilla, and best of all, don't forget the cinnamon, a tablespoon of cinnamon. There's always a joke in my house that one year I forgot to put cinnamon in the cinnamon rolls. Nobody complained, so there you go. Be sure and put cinnamon in your cinnamon rolls. They're kind of sticky buns anyhow, so the sticky bun, the cinnamon's not so quite important as the sticky, yummy, buttery part. So, and then we're going to take this saucepan, put it on the stove just to let the ingredients dissolve and become syrup. So place this saucepan over medium-high heat, and you're going to cook it and stir it until it's all melted like this. I got a pound of walnuts. 1/2 of these are going to grate. So you want a texture of about breadcrumbs for these walnuts. So in our pan that we lavished with butter, I'm going to add our secret sauce. So go ahead and just pour the secret sauce in the pan that you've already coated with butter, and we're also going to add the 1/2 pound of walnuts that we had previously set aside prior to grating. So coming back to our dough that we set aside earlier. So stir the batter together, and you're going to add 1 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 3 tablespoons of melted butter, and 1 cup of flour, all-purpose white flour. You're going to stir that. It'll be about the consistency of thick pancake batter. Don't worry, we'll thicken it up with some flour when we put it on the board to knead it later. So our dough's set, covered with plastic wrap for about 1/2 hour to 40 minutes or so. See here the batter's kind of thickened up after it sat for a while. So you're going to put a big pile of flour onto the surface you're going to be kneading and turn out this dough. You see it's really loose, but don't worry about it. As you knead the flour in, you see here I've covered the top of it with some flour because it's kind of sticky. Just use your fingertips and pull gently into the middle. And as you work the flour into the dough, you can see even now it's kind of thickening up a little bit. So don't worry if it starts out a little loose. So if you're running out of flour on your board, just add some more. You can add some more on the top or on the board. And you're going to pull from the outside in. This is kneading. And as you see, as I pull from the outside in, I'm turning the ball about 90 degrees. You see here? Pull in, push, turn 90 degrees. Pull in, push, turn 90 degrees. That's the kneading technique. And if your fingers get a little sticky with dough, just peel it off like I did there and work the bits of dough back into the ball. You can see here now, though, that the ball is becoming a little bit more smooth and workable. Ultimately, you want the texture to be kind of like smooth Play-Doh. So take your time with this, have some patience. The kneading helps to develop the gluten in the dough that makes this a beautiful, nice texture. And you see here it's become really smooth. At this point, my cousin Cameron usually says she likes to spank it like a baby's butt. That's another thing that she really enjoys doing. So as it comes together, roll it up into a smooth ball, and then we're going to let it set on the counter covered with plastic for about 5 minutes, and we're going to move on to rolling and shaping. Now we're going to shape and fill the cinnamon rolls with the delicious filling. So you want to roll it out to about the size of the pan that you're using to cook them in. So you want to roll it out about a rectangle of this size. So you're going to put a lot of flour again on your work surface and pat this dough out to a rectangle. It's better to start out with a rectangle. You see here I pull on the corners a little bit. And for rolling, you want to roll from the center out to the corners for the rectangle. And just have a really light pressure. This dough is pretty soft, so if you press it too hard, it's going to stick to your rolling pin. If it does, add some flour and it'll keep it from sticking. And then, yes, we're going to add more butter. We're going to add another stick of butter that's been softened. So to our rectangle that we've rolled out, we're going to add the melted butter. I'm applying it here with a spoon. The kids normally put it on with their hands. Whatever you want to do it. Just have some fun. You want to spread it out to the edges except for the farthest edge from you. Leave about 1 inch of that blank. And then you're going to put a tablespoon of cinnamon over the part where you covered with butter, and you're going to put brown sugar in the same area. So remember the whole thing except for the inch farthest from you. Then the ground walnuts that we ground up earlier, spread those edge to edge except for the furthest 1 inch. So we're going to roll these cinnamon rolls starting with the edge closest to us. Just do a little bit at a time. You see I'm working from left to right, little piece at a time, using my fingertips because the dough's soft. You'll notice that I tuck in the ends as I'm rolling to keep the filling from falling out. You're aiming to roll to end with the seam side down that I just pointed to. So roll and tuck, end with the seam side down, and then you're going to shape this so it's even all the way across. I'm going to mark these cinnamon rolls for cutting and then place them in the pan. So the easiest way to do it is mark half, then quarters, and then the quarters into thirds. So you'll have 12 even cinnamon rolls. Marking first helps you get nice even cinnamon rolls. So cut the end. When you take the end, make sure and put it cut side down, so when you invert it, you'll have the nice pretty side up. So we're going to cut easily, squeeze these rolls, put them in the pan, 3 by 4. And just continue doing this. You want to place them evenly into the pan. And then you're going to pretty up the edges so they're sitting upright. And then you're going to squish them with your hand so they go edge to edge. It just helps them rise and look better. Then we're going to cover them with plastic and set aside. Now we're going to cover these in plastic and let them set till they're about double, and you'll see they look kind of puffy. Depending on how hot or cold it is outside, it could take anywhere from a half hour to an hour. Now on Thanksgiving, at this point, we cover them and put them in the refrigerator to keep them from rising so quickly. So if you want to prepare your cinnamon rolls the day ahead of time, you would put them in the refrigerator at this point if you wanted them for breakfast the next day. When you take them out of the refrigerator in the morning, you're going to have to let them come up to room temperature, maybe about an hour or so, before you put them in the oven. So I'll show you what they need to look like after these have had a chance to rise. These have been rising, maybe about an hour. They're looking kind of puffy looking. They've risen almost to the edge of the pan, and they're loose looking. You want to put them in 275 for convection, 300 for a regular oven. And you're going to let them bake, maybe about 50 minutes. What you're looking for is the middle needs to look done, but without the outside looking too burnt. And see, these are on the edge of just golden brown. Don't those look great? So you're going to want to turn out these cinnamon rolls pretty close in time to when you take them out of the oven. This thing is going to be super hot. This stage is dangerous, so really be careful. Make sure the kids are not around. So what you're going to do is take a cookie sheet, put it on top of the cinnamon rolls. Take pot holders. Make sure you have a really good grip on your pan, and turn them and flip. And turn them upside down and just let them sit for a little bit. And then I usually take a knife to lift up this pan. It's really hot. Just be careful you don't burn yourself. So I'm going to lift the pan up. And use your pot holder. The most beautiful cinnamon rolls you'll ever eat. To all my friends and family, happy Thanksgiving. Hope you make these for yourself.